right, Greg, it's one we've had circled for a long time. It's Niners at Eagles, the rematch of the NFC Championship game. I think I've asked you this question from your perspective as a player. I would also be curious for your perspective as a broadcaster too. Like when, this is a game that you've had circled all year long. Like when it's finally here, I mean, you try to approach it as any other game, or there's no denying that there's some extra gravitas here, right?
There is. And I think when the schedule came out, obviously, especially after the way everything went down last year in the NFC Championship, and we had the pleasure of calling that game, which obviously in the second half was pretty unprecedented in the fact that San Francisco was unable to attempt a forward pass due to injury and really interesting circumstances. So I think when the schedule came out and we saw that this was going to be one of our big America's Game of the Week, last weekend in November, or first weekend in December, I guess, we knew this one had a chance to be pretty big. And then obviously that's all compounded to the fact that Philadelphia continues to win. It seems like every single week here, and only having the one defeat. And then after a little bit of a weird middle of their season there, it seems like San Francisco now is starting to roll, and they kind of look like the team we saw earlier in the year these last couple of weeks. So I think they're both playing as well as you could hope for the back stretch of the season, and the fact that we get to call it, to me, on paper, this is the game of the regular season so far.
So one thing I can't get over, and it's been talked about a lot this week. I know, it doesn't decide the outcome, obviously, but it's very interesting to me that the 49ers are a road favorite in this matchup. The Eagles have the best record in the league. They've won 5 straight. If you had to think of a reason why the Niners would be favored in this game, is it the Eagles' tendency for the dramatic? Is it just the Niners, the strength of their roster? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. And you don't see it a lot in the league where good teams are underdogs at home, right? So I definitely think it's worth the conversation. I don't know a ton about how betting lines are made or what goes in, but just from a football, observation, I think a lot of times the markets and whatnot, they look at how teams win, not necessarily just whether they win or lose. And I think when they look at the records, they kind of put that aside and they say, okay, over this last 4-week snapshot, how is San Francisco playing? How is Philadelphia playing? What are the metrics? What's their point differentials? What is the manner in which they win? What is the margin of victory? And I think they look at all those things. And I think what people are concerned about with Philadelphia, and I'm not sure if I share these sentiments necessarily, but what people I think are scared about with, is it sustainable to have these big fourth quarter comebacks? Their last 4 games that they've won, they've been trailing at halftime. And it's a great story, and they're magical, and Jalen Hurts is incredible, and Sirianni, and the whole story is incredible. But is it sustainable to always have the big fourth quarter comebacks week after week after week? I think that's the concern. Is there's this narrative like 1-score games. If you win them all, yes, it speaks to your culture. It speaks to your situational football. It speaks to just how good you are as a team. But at some point, there's always that fear of the regression, right? The regression back to the mean where, you kind of, the close games are almost more of a coin flip for the majority of the league. And I think that's more of the concern. And I don't think it's necessarily, hey, but they're 10-1. It's the style in which they played the last couple of weeks is my guess. And on the other end with San Francisco, they've been close to dominant. They had that 3-week spell there before their bye where they were completely out of sorts. Trent Williams wasn't playing. They lost Deebo Samuel. We were there for that. We called their kind of upset loss to Cleveland, a month ago, whatever it was. So I think it's more that. But listen, at the end of the day, these are 2 of probably the best 3 teams in the entire league. However you want to slice and dice the manner in which they win, the style in which they win. There's something special about Philadelphia and their ability to find ways to win, even when they don't necessarily play great. And obviously, you can make the argument that San Francisco could potentially have the best roster in the NFL top to bottom. So when you put those 2 together, I think this game's a coin flip, regardless of what the betting market suggests.